Chicago, 2011. A cop is murdered. Police and prosecutors swear they have the trigger man. He swears he didn't do it. How far will each side go to prove they're right?
Like it's just one bombshell after another, where you're like, what?
The story of a PlayStation, a brain-eating amoeba, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Off Duty, out now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello and welcome back to the Psych Legal Pop Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm the therapist, Tess Brigham.
And I'm the attorney, Brooke Brigham.
Well, this is a very exciting episode. So many things are happening. Number one, we are talking about, and just like that, we are reviewing season 1 of the show because the second season is coming out and we're planning on covering that. The second thing is we have a very special guest here. Brooke, would you like to introduce our guest?
Our special guest today is my daughter, Layla. Say hello. Hey. This is her first time podcasting, so she's a little shy. But we thought it would be interesting to get her perspective. She watched And Just Like That last year.
Did you watch the Sex and the City show? The full show?
Yeah, my mom and I binged it once on vacation in Disneyland.
Oh. And you know what it was?
It came on you're just switching through the channels on the hotel TV.
Oh, so did it have all the sex taken out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But then after that, I went and we came home and I think it was on Netflix at the time, and I just watched everything.
Okay.
And all the movies.
With all the sex.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so just to give some context, Layla is 20. She's a Gen Zer. So this is also part of it, too, is wanting to hear about your take on it, because we watched the original Sex and the City while it was on the air in real time, because we're old. And, that was one of the pieces. What was so interesting about it was, hearing from another generation after ours about how they took in Sex and the City and how they found it so problematic, and how times changed, and then just wanting to hear from you. And so when you first watched the show, was it shocking to you? Did you feel was it shocking to watch Sex and the City, the original? Hearing some of the things that you heard, seeing some of the things, did you feel like they were behind in the times?
Not really.
No?
Did you think it was pretty typical, not really shocking?
I felt like a lot of shows were kind of like that, so it's not like it was anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah. So a lot of the criticism that the show got was that they had a very narrow view, that there wasn't a lot of,
There's no diversity.
There was no diversity, that they had a very, even though she was a columnist, had a sex column, that she really had a very narrow view of sexuality, right? That has a problem dating someone who was bisexual.
Yeah.
On one episode.
Even though she has a gay best friend, There's so many things that didn't make sense. Well, first of all, she wrote a sex column once a week, but she was able to afford to live in this apartment. And
I mean, that was crazy.
Buy all these shoes and do all this stuff. So that made no sense.
But I mean, I think it was because she had this. The other part of it, beyond if we push all of that aside, was that a lot of the criticisms were that she had the sex column, but she really dismissed this guy that she was dating for being bisexual. She was just like, well, there's no such thing as bisexuality. And that really upset a lot of people. And that they felt that trans and transgender was really dismissed. Very much so. And the way they handled that was very much dismissed. That again, the diversity, there was no diversity at all, very little. In the entire show, that they very rarely dated outside of their race ever. Yeah. That was never an issue.
Except for Blair Underwood.
Yes. Yes. And I'm trying to think about what some of the other major issues were that came up. And just they said a lot of flippant things.
Yeah. And they were, they were all wealthy, living in New York City. It wasn't that relatable, I guess. But then again, at the time, it did reflect the times.
Yes.
Because it was 25 years ago.
Yes, it's just at its 25th anniversary.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. And things have really changed. And this is long before, gay marriage and, all the stuff that is happening now has really happened in the very recent past. So those were the times. And, it was on HBO, this major mainstream, platform. And, there was only so much they could really do. But then I felt like when And Just Like That came out, they seemed to overcorrect.
Yes, that was the big issue.
And it went too far. It was like they were trying so hard to make sure they represented everything. We have to have someone who's non-binary, someone who's transgender, someone who's Latina, someone who's African American. I mean, it was like they were checking all these boxes, and it kind of didn't feel very authentic sometimes. Yeah,
that was so. What we're doing today is we're going to review we're going to talk about season 1 of And Just Like That, and so do you want to give us some of your? What did you? I would love to hear from you, Layla. What was your thoughts
on Just Like That, or Sex in the City?
Well, on Just Like That. And Just Like That, after watching Sex in the City, and then, I mean, everybody was thither when And Just Like That was announced and it came back. I mean, all the fans were, excited about it. What did you think?
Yeah, I think at first I was excited because I thought it would be like the original show, like the vibe of it. Mm-hmm. But I think it just had too much of an emphasis on like there was no plot. Like, I felt like the whole time they were just shoving, hey, we're woke in your face. Look how woke I am. Like, we have all this inclusivity in the show instead of, like, actually having a storyline that makes sense for, like, who these people are. Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of things from the original show fell off because they were too focused on, like, making everything squeaky clean.
Yeah.
Especially with Miranda. She was the character who they really just messed with the most.
Yeah. She was the one the farthest from who she really was.
Yeah, because Miranda was always like a badass, She was always like, I loved Miranda. And then
they turned her like weird.
They turned her into just this bumbling idiot who she's so awkward. And then she just runs off with this Che Diaz character.
We have to spend a lot of time on Che.
Yeah, it just seemed, it's like, this is not the Miranda I know.
Yeah.
At all.
Well, let's first start with, I want to start first with the elephant in the room, Kim Cattrall. Mm-hmm. So the big thing was that Kim Cattrall wasn't going to come back, and there was a lot of talk about why isn't she coming back? And, a big reason was, and this isn't a secret, that she and Sarah Jessica Parker didn't get along. And And one of I love Kim Cattrall. I'm a big Kim Cattrall stan. I'll stand behind her any day of the week. And my issue was that, this show was called Sex and the City. Sarah Jessica Parker had a no nudity clause. This, they really, the sex part of this show really fell on Kim Cattrall. I mean, this woman was naked in a lot, buck naked, full nudity, every single episode of that show, or pretty much close to every episode. All of the, and they always talked about how most sex scenes in the show were supposed to be comedy. And she was, and I'm saying literally, and I'm using that word correctly, hanging from chandeliers in some episodes. So all of the sex, all of the comedy around the sex, all of the goofiness and all of the jokes and the butt of the jokes were her. The other thing was that she also was the person that was constantly pointed at, no matter how old Sarah Jessica Parker or Miranda, the other characters were, she was older.
And she's only older by a couple of years.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, was that her age, especially in Sex and the City, the movie too, the second movie, it was pointed out a ton.
The whole menopause
thing. And then eating the hummus and her pills and, all of it. I mean, just shoved down your face. And so I don't blame Kim Cattrall for being a little bit like, I'm 60 some odd years old. I don't want to keep taking my clothes off. I don't want to keep being the butt of the jokes. I don't want to be ripped on for my age. And I don't want to, I'm done with this. I'm done with being this person. And I don't want to do this anymore. And what really just ate at me was how they explained where Samantha was. I felt like they just did Kim Cattrall and Samantha Jones dirty, because to say the big explanation of where Samantha Jones was that she was doing Carrie's PR, and that Carrie, the publishing world changed, and so Carrie didn't need her anymore, and so she fired her, and Carrie and Samantha was so upset that she got mad and didn't want to talk to any of them and moved to London. I'm like, please, first off, Samantha Jones...
Carrie was not a big client.
Okay, yeah, I would also like to say, did Carrie ever pay her? Because I think Samantha always did all that work for free, and if she didn't do it for free, I think the publisher paid her, number one. And then number two... Samantha Jones always had clients and worked a ton, so she didn't really need your money all that much, Carrie. And of all your friends, that you had, she was the one. She was the most loyal, and she was the one that judged you the least.
Yes.
Having an affair with Big behind Aiden's back, not judging you.
Yeah.
All of the crapola that you did all those years, all of the stuff that you did, she never judged you. She would have never done that.
And Carrie always judged Samantha.
Yes, she always judged her. So I find that hard to believe. Why? And so to me, I feel like that was a real FU to Kim Cattrall. I really do. And I feel like it made Sarah Jessica Parker and the Carrie character look good, and it made Kim Cattrall and the Samantha Jones character look petty. And so what I don't understand is, why couldn't the fight or the disagreement between the two of them be a little bit more equal? Or why couldn't it be on Carrie? Why couldn't Carrie be the bad guy? That's all I got to say about that. I'll get off my soapbox. But it just irks me to no end.
Yeah.
Is anybody else with me? Is anyone else a Carrie? Kim Cattrall stan.
I agree. And the thing is, Sarah Jessica Parker is an executive producer.
Yes.
This is her show. She gets paid the most. So, yeah, she's going to put herself and her character in the best light.
Well, but I think that Kristen Davis and Cynthia Nixon are also now executive producers with this show.
This one, yeah.
But that's the thing. Yeah, of course she's going to put herself on a good light. But, you're not really creating a very great environment to have her come back. Now, the big news is that she is coming back for the second season.
Yeah,
but
in some way,
very limited.
We're not sure, but we'll see. That'll be exciting to see.
Yes, but anyway, that's my take on. I mean, I don't blame Kim Cattrall for only recording by herself in a room.
Yeah,
because she's mad and listen, she doesn't need to. Kim's got like tons of projects and other things going on. She doesn't need these people or this show. I'm thrilled that she's doing it, but that just the minute I heard that plot line, I was like, God damn them.
Wow.
I'm so mad.
Well, isn't Aiden coming back too?
Yes.
Yeah. And they've been seen, filming and all that.
Dating.
Some
Yes.
people think that it's a dream sequence
Oh,
or a
gosh,
flash. But
no.
I think he's back, but I don't think she's going to end up with him. Here's the thing: we need Carrie to be dating, and
Yes.
that's why they had to kill Big
Yeah.
in the first episode, because it is not
I cried.
interesting. You cried?
Yes.
When they killed Big, really?
Yes.
Did you see it coming? Did you
No.
have any idea?
No, I had
Really?
no idea.
See, I feel like if you were a regular listener of Juicy Scoop or Heather McDonald's show, they talked about this constantly on Juicy Scoop. She would have like Ross Matthews or other people on her show, and they were constantly talking about Sex and the City 3. And like, if they were going to do a Sex and the City 3 movie, what would they do? And she constantly talked about how they had to kill Big.
Well, they have to,
Because that was
boring.
that was the problem. Well, that was the problem with the movies. That was the problem with the movies. The show ended perfectly. She has Big. We know his name now. It's John, and they live happily ever after. And the problem with the movies was that the first movie was just a regurgitation of how crappy this guy is and how they had this up and down relationship. And the first movie was stupid. It was just kind of like, let's just do the series all over again. And then the second movie was, oh yeah, he's still kind of not really committed to you. Now let's go to Abu Dhabi and then come back. And then the problem was, but Heather McDonald on her show would constantly talk about how we've got to kill off Big. And she predicted a lot of this stuff. She predicted how Carrie would have a podcast. So when the show came back, it was almost like, oh my God, a lot of this is true. It was almost like they listened to the show and said, oh yeah, this is a good idea. This is a good idea. This is a good idea.
She can't get bogged down with Aiden again. I mean, I think they will rekindle their relationship, but then something will happen.
Yeah.
She'll find out something about him, or she'll remember, like,
or there was a reason why they broke up.
There was a reason
twice
why,
before.
Yeah, there was a reason why he proposed to her and she couldn't bring herself to marry him.
Yes.
She couldn't even bring herself to wear her engagement ring. So we'll see where that plot goes.
Yes.
That's interesting. But when the show left off last season, the last scene is her making out with her podcast producer.
Yeah, she was a super cutie.
Yeah, super cute, Silver Fox.
Yes, he is.
Making out in the elevator. So I don't know what. Maybe we start out with that. I'm not really sure, but yeah. And then a lot of there was a lot of stuff in. And just like that was a little bit of a downer. It's like, we don't really want to see Carrie getting a hip replacement.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I think that was one of the pieces where I think, again, it wasn't called Sex and the City. I think that was one of the pieces that what was hard for people to wrap their brain around was, oh, this isn't Sex and the City. This isn't going to be. This isn't sex.
Totally
It's a totally different show.
Well, Miranda's now having sex.
Yeah, but nobody else really is.
Harry and Charlotte are still
kind of, sort of. But I mean, really,
just giving him a blowjob.
Yeah, but Brady's the only one really having.
Brady's having
sex, but nobody else is. And yeah, I mean, it did the first. I don't know how many episodes it felt, but it felt like, I just want to go back to this, what you were talking about before, is just this huge, the swing, and just, it did feel like especially the first couple episodes, that first episode of the podcast, XY and Me. Do you remember the name of the podcast they were doing? XY and Me. I mean, how many lectures we got about things like Che Diaz smoking weed in the
elevator.
In the elevator, just how bizarre everything was, just how extreme everything was. It was like XY and Me, and the weird podcast clips, and the fact that they do this podcast and it's this giant company, and then who smokes weed in an elevator, and then it's just
why
the whole
did they
thing
even
was
cast her in that? Why did they get? I guess it's a podcast with a cisgendered woman and a cisgendered man, and then Che Diaz, the non-binary, whatever. She has like 3 different titles she calls herself, but or they call themselves. I don't know. So many things were weird, and then Miranda was just so weird out the gate. Like,
well, yeah.
I mean, first of all,
the bumbling stuff with her, she wouldn't have been so bumbling with her college professor. Mm-hmm. Like all this stuff with the college professor and with thinking she was a student and, you know, all of that in the beginning with race and the race theory. It was just, I just don't think she would be so bubbly.
No.
It's just uncomfortable.
It was really uncomfortable.
And Miranda's smarter than that. They made her just this goofy person. And then, you know, Miranda had so many different storylines in this season. She has she's going back, she's quit practicing law, she's getting a master's in human
social justice?
Something. Yeah, social justice. And she's you know, Steve is going deaf. Her son is, you know, fucking his girlfriend in the
and I don't know why we need this.
Never have allowed that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her son is a raging asshole.
Yeah, the son is a jerk. He has no respect for anything, and they just sort of ignore him. Steve can't even hear it, so it doesn't bother him. And you know, and then she becomes attracted to Che Diaz, and she just goes head over heels, and she's just acting crazy.
Yeah. Well, and then the alcohol stuff, you know, we start seeing these clues where she's like going right before her first day of class. She's going to ordering a Chablis, you know, right before.
Who drinks a Chablis?
Yeah, I know, right before her first class. And then they open up this whole issue with the drinking, and then it ends. Like by episode 5, like, it's over. I quit, and then it's over.
One night, she drunk ordered something from Amazon that she couldn't remember, and then when she realized it was that "Quit Like a Woman" book about, you know, women quitting drinking, and she blames Charlotte for ordering it. Turns out she ordered it; she just couldn't remember it. And then she says, "That's it. I'm not drinking anymore." And she pours out all her booze into the sink. And then the drinking is never spoken of again. She just quit. Like,
boom, that storyline's over. Okay, done. All good. We're all good. We're all moving on. Yeah, you know, and we're on to the next one.
And all of a sudden they all have these new BFFs. You know, like Carrie becomes, you know, good friends with her realtor. You know, Seema.
Well, Seema is the best of all of. I love Seema. I love the character of Seema. I thought she was great, but it's really, really silly. It's like, okay, now everyone has to have a person of color friend. And that was just, it was ridiculous.
Oh yeah. So, and Charlotte has this, they call
LTW.
her LTW Lisa,
Todd
Wexler. And I think Anthony calls her the Black Charlotte. So yeah, they all have to have a
token black friend.
Black friend. And
but yeah, it was just but it felt like it felt relentless, like every week, because they introduced Lisa Todd Wexler, and then they introduced, okay, now so Miranda's got this new character, that she's got this professor, and then a couple episodes later, you know, and then we're meeting Che, and then a couple of episodes later, it's like, oh, you know, their daughter Rose wants to be Rock. I was like, oh God, there's a they-them situation. Now it's transgender. It's like every week it felt like it was we're entering into a new phase. And it's just like, not all of this.
Gratuitous.
But it was like, not all of this is going to happen to all of these people all at the same
a month.
Yeah. And all of this at the same time in the same way. People were just asking for you to make it just slightly more realistic, more organic, and maybe a little bit more thoughtful than what it was before.
Yeah, and also too, and then Charlotte, her character bothered me in the sense that, you know, she seems even more of a Pollyanna than she was in the first series. You know, she seems to be so, you know, like she has these two girls who are like preteen, and she seems to just know nothing about their world or, you know, the changing world that these kids are living in. She's still really stuck in the past and trying to buy them matching dresses.
Yeah, my Madame Alexander dolls.
Yeah,
it's like,
they want to redo their rooms. First of all, why they live in this fancy penthouse in New York, and they're sharing a room.
That seemed weird.
They only have a 2-bedroom apartment?
Yeah, you have a huge place.
Yeah, that's weird. So then they want to redecorate their room, in their style. And Charlotte's just like, what?
Well, and this whole thing with Charlotte in episode 4, which is called Some of My Best Friends, this whole thing with Charlotte wants to throw a dinner party. And she's like, I'm going to invite these people and these people. Okay, I'm going to invite, Stanford and Anthony because they're gay. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, oh my God, we have no black friends. That was her big realization, that they have no black friends.
So she
needs to invite the Wexlers. And then it turns out they end up going to a party and they're the only white people there.
Yeah.
But it was just, that whole thing was so, you're like, is this how you really talk? Like, they're gay. Is this how you invite people to things? Like, okay, I need a gay couple. Is this how we invite people to things
so
now?
Comfortable. And it's like, how did this happen when, the head writer, Michael Patrick King, is a gay man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people of color they really have on their writing staff.
I don't know. I don't think... it's Michael Patrick King and 2 white women who really write it.
Because you know what? There was a podcast that Michael Patrick King put out.
I listened to that last time because I would watch the show, listen to the podcast, and then you and I would go on walks and I would rant about it all.
Yeah. So what they would do is that he would sit down with the writers of each episode, who were all sounded to me like middle-aged white ladies. And they would talk about the plot line and how they ended up writing it and how it turned out the way that it did. And God, are they full of themselves? And they just thought that all this stuff was great. They thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And here we're going, oh my God, this is so cheesy. And they're saying, oh, it was wonderful how we brought this all together. And it's like, we're just on 2 different planets here.
Yeah, because the way he would describe it is and that was the part that was so hard. It was like, well, when I'm listening to you, Michael Patrick King, you're doing exactly what you want to be doing. And I'm not seeing it, because he talked a lot about light, like how it was this, in the beginning it was big and it was great. And then there's this darkness, and she goes into the darkness, and then she starts to get into the light, and there's light, and there's this, and there's that. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going into the light now? I mean, I don't know. It was. And then with the hip replacement, we have, hands down, the orgasm heard around the world.
Most uncomfortable in television.
I mean, and that was, and so again, you're kind of like, okay, so this is what's happening now? Like, okay. It was just, and so...
Miranda can blame it on the tequila, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
But I guess for me, it's just, it wasn't, normally that would have been Kim Cattrall. Right? That would have been her, and it would have been done differently, and it would have been funny, and it would have been... hilarious,
awkward,
but it was just weird and awkward, and
then afterwards, when Carrie confronts her, she breaks down, talks about how miserable her life is, and she's in this loveless marriage, and I guess Che Diaz is the answer to all of that, because that thing with Che moved so quickly, and that's also something I felt was out of character.
Yes,
I don't think that Che Diaz, being quite the sexual, person, and has lots of partners and prospects and whatever, I have a very hard time believing she would fall in love with Miranda. I'm sorry. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's just like the vibes don't match.
Yeah, it's so forced.
Yeah, because Che can get some young...
Yeah.
I think it was just the only 2 characters they could think of that would, like, obviously Charlotte's married.
Charlotte's not
doing that.
No.
No. And then Carrie...
No.
She probably just didn't want to write herself like that, so then Miranda got stuck with it.
Yeah, it's like they wrote the Che Diaz character and they're like, we're having this character.
Yeah.
And
So
then
who
they
can
just
hook up-
figured it
yeah.
out from there.
Who can she hook up with?
I also
Yeah.
just think it was weird, like, because it was like when Carrie had her hip surgery, it's like you're supposed to be taking care of your friend and you're just
Yeah, well, her
getting busy.
her judgment was clouded in
Yeah.
more ways than one, but that was very out of character for her.
Well, and
Miranda's usually good in a crisis.
But I do understand I kind of understand what the writers were going for in the sense that, you know, Miranda has always been the one, like the serious one, the one to take care of things, and that Miranda wanted to let loose. Like she was tired of being the you know, take care of everything, that, you know, she wanted to let loose, that she hadn't, that this part of her life, because things with Steve had been so hard, that she wanted to let loose. But I think that the Miranda that we had all seen before, would she have really been burying her head in the sand like this for 5 years? You know, would she have done that for so long?
Yeah, actually, what is the length of time? It's got to be like at least 10 years because...
Well, it's been 15 years since it had been 15 years since we've last seen them. They're 15 years older, right?
Well, because in the Sex and the City 2 movie, you know, Rose, the youngest daughter, was like a baby, or maybe like 2.
Yeah, she was born.
it's
She
supposed
was
to be-
born in the first movie, so
I think it's supposed to be maybe like 10 years later.
okay.
Because Lily is only 15 and she was, you know,
A little girl in
Yeah.
the movie.
so it's like 10 years have gone by. So yeah, Miranda's, I don't know. I don't think she's been miserable the whole 10 years, but who
Anyhow.
knows? They never explain that. And,
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Like, they don't explain how they got to this point.
Because
Steve and Miranda are a central, like they're a
Yeah.
solid central couple,
And-
part of this. And then also too, I feel like they did Steve really dirty.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, because he is portrayed as sort of this bumbling, you know, idiot.
Yeah.
And then in the end of the season, Miranda says she wants a divorce, and I just was crushed for Steve. You know,
Yeah.
it was awful. Like what she's just like, well, you know, I want a divorce. I met someone. I'm leaving. Bye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, they had a their relationship, what didn't, with the two of them, their relationship, you know, the downfalls of the relationship wasn't that they didn't have a good sex life. Their sex life was always good.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you know, not on the same page with certain things. So that was the part, like, suddenly they've gotten to this point now where they're, you know, not having sex at all. It didn't make any sense. If we can go back for a second, I want to get back to, you know, early on in the second episode where they have the funeral and they have a deep cut of Susan Sharon.
I love this.
Okay, so Susan Sharon says hands down one of the best lines, where they're doing this retrospective of Big and they're showing all this stuff.
Eulogy.
This eulogy.
Yeah.
And she says, you know, does anyone remember what a dick he was to her? And, you know, in the third episode, we find out that he leaves $1 million to his ex-wife, Natasha.
Mm-hmm.
And Carrie can't sleep, and she goes on this quest, and she spies on Natasha, and she's trying to find Natasha, and she ends up running into Natasha in a coffee shop and burns her hand, and it's a whole thing. And then finally she and Natasha have this scene, and they talk. And I always thought that was a really interesting scene because, you know, we learn that Carrie's always been really intimidated by Natasha, and we find out Natasha's always been intimidated by Carrie, like these two women. And, you know, that is one thing that is not really ever dealt with, that it's always bothered me in the movies and in the show, and even now post, is they've always made Big out to be like, I feel like they've always just kind of pushed all of the crapola with him, this negative stuff with him to the side.
Yeah,
like
he's a dick.
He is a dick. He was a dick to her for years.
Yeah.
And there was many reasons why, and he was a dick to her, you know, when they got in the show. He was a dick to her. Movie 1.
He left her at the altar.
Yeah, movie 1. He was a dick to her in movie 2.
Yeah.
And he was a dick to her in death. And I would just like to say this.
You're right. No, Susan Sharon is correct.
So like, speak. Justice for Susan Sharon. And Kim Cattrall. These two people. So, and you know what? We haven't even said, I mean, the two words that I wrote at the top of my sheet, I didn't even get to say two of my favorite words. Comedy concert. Comedy concert. Anyway, keep going.
Well, I don't know who else. So, well, one of the sad things is, Stanford.
Yes.
He passes away. The actor Willie Garson passes away.
Horrible.
From pancreatic cancer.
Which really it happens so fast too.
Yeah, and that happened. So I'm sure they had to, redo that whole relationship. And basically they just say that he went to Tokyo with some TikToker and he told Anthony he wants a divorce. And then that was that.
Yeah.
That was not justice for Stanford.
No.
They're really bad with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if a character's going to disappear, give us something better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than
I don't
that.
like all these running off stories.
Yeah. So then Anthony kind of gets pushed up into the Stanford role.
Yeah.
And I love Mario,
him. Yeah. Cantone. He's great.
I love him. I've always loved him. And I love his bread business.
No, he was great. He was great in the original show. Hates it. Could be work though. I love him. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, and then there's a bunch of episodes where and then we see these episodes where she writes a book. And she writes a book and it's like in 3 months' time, which should have felt like 8 months' time. And then she writes this book, and so she has to go on a date, and because it needs to feel hopeful, and so she goes on this date with this guy, and they both vomit.
He's a widower, and they both just get drunk, talking about their dead spouses, and then they both throw up, and it's a big disaster. And then the funny thing is that later, this is also one of I love this scene. So, Charlotte and LTW organized this, auction for their kids' school. Their kids go to the same school. And so Carrie is auctioning off a lunch with her. They're auctioning off a lunch with Carrie, author Carrie Bradshaw. Nobody bids on it.
Yeah. They kept saying sex writer, and they kept saying a date with sex writer, and it's like, oh, crap.
Yeah, so nobody's bidding. It's like mortifying for her. And then all of a sudden she says, "Look, I'll donate, $1,000. So no one has to go to lunch with me. It's fine." And then the guy who she went on the date with comes out. He happens to be a teacher at that school, and then he outbids her. And then they go on another date. And I think they go on a couple more dates, but they're just just platonic. But yeah, Carrie has to start dating for this to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I think that a lot of us I thought, oh, good. Okay, it's going to happen, right? Like, now she's going to start dating, like it's happening here. And it's like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. Oh, we're back to Che Diaz, and we're back to Che Diaz and Miranda. And there's all of this stuff where, Miranda, and that's that whole weird thing where she runs after Che Diaz, and I love you, Che Diaz, and she runs to Cleveland to see her, and suddenly she's so bizarre. And you're right, she decides to leave her marriage and her child,
who
and it's
clearly needs some guidance.
Yes, because he's a mess.
Parenting,
and the thing is, it's so weird. It's like, God, why don't you go see a therapist at least and talk to a professional and maybe about some of your choices. And then at the end, Che Diaz gets this pilot and says, well, I'm moving to California, and Miranda gives up this stellar internship, which again seems odd.
Leaves her master's program
to go do this, and then has this argument with Carrie in the bathroom about this, which is a very similar argument that they had reverse when Carrie left to Paris. Yeah. And of course, the joke is, if anyone knows in Hollywood, they make tons of pilots every year. It takes about 10 days to do a pilot. People do these pilots. They make 50 pilots, and about 10 get picked up. Or I want to say, they make 70 pilots and 15 get picked up. So, and most people shoot pilots and then they go back home.
Right.
So why Che Diaz? Yeah, no one needed to move there. Che just needed to go and shoot the pilot, and then Miranda could have kept this internship. It would only if the pilot gets
get
picked
away
up
from her.
And even if
I
the
thought she asked her to go with her.
yeah, but the thing is, even if the pilot gets picked up, there's no guarantee that the pilot will go past 13 episodes.
Well, Miranda is just
This is
horny
idiotic.
and she's not thinking about any of this. She's having sex, and that's all she can think about.
I'm so irritated because these are professional writers. You know how the industry works. Do you know what I mean? You
true.
know how the industry works.
But they know that the rest of America doesn't, so they know that they can just pull the wool over.
Well, no,
everybody's
you
eyes.
cannot pull the wool because enough of us know how the industry works, and I'm telling you, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
That does not work like that.
These writers.
They think we're idiots. We're
from
not.
Listening to that podcast, these writers,
Yeah.
they live in their own world.
Well, and that's always been the argument of the show, that the show is very much in this, it's women, white women, and gay men. And that's who writes the show.
And you can tell. And you can still tell.
Yeah.
Even though they're trying to, woke it up.
But from my understanding, that they've hired some women of color to write for the show.
Well, that's good.
So that is what I'm very curious about, is how they feel about, because I feel like they were interviewed for that podcast, how they feel about all of these changes. Because it feels like a lot, because I do know for that Diwali episode that they interviewed a woman who was Indian about, because she talked about that, being Indian and her family and Diwali and the traditions and all of that. And so I would love to talk to them and say, do you think this is a lot? Do you think this, don't you think that do you think this is piling it on? Doesn't this seem like a lot to you? So, I don't know. Maybe they're just so thrilled to have a job. I don't know.
Well, what are our predictions for
the new season?
For season 2.
Well, I agree with you that I think, and I will say that I always liked Aiden. I was an Aiden person because I would have always picked Aiden over Big. That was just me. That's my personality. Even though I know Aiden's not right for Carrie. But I think that Aiden will be around for a little bit, but then there'll be a reason why they're not. But I think it's going to be a lot of dating, and I think it's going to be. I don't want to see this. But I think it's going to be a lot of dating in your 50s. And I don't know
Which is not as fun as dating in your 30s.
And I don't even want to say this because this is kind of gross and you're my niece. But I feel like it might be a lot of
oh God,
I don't want to say it. I know.
Vaginal dryness.
Yes. I'm glad you said it, not me.
A lot of talk about lube.
Yes. I feel like it might be.
Erectile dysfunction.
Yes.
Lots of issues.
Yes. I feel like it might be midlife. Do you know what I mean?
Midlife crisis.
Midlife crisis. Yeah.
Yes. I think it might be.
You're right.
Please, God, no. I don't need to see that. I feel like I've sat through enough uncomfortable stuff.
But I think that's the audience. I mean, I don't know. I know you and
Me and all my friends watch it.
Yeah, they all watch it, but
you don't want to see that. That's the last thing you want to see.
But I think we're probably more like their main demographic, even though there are younger people watching it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But then again, that's if you're going to be realistic and, you can make some funny jokes out of that.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it's not all of that, but I think it will be sort of what is it like now being in her 50s, sort of having to do this dance again of being naked with someone new again and being vulnerable and all of that. That's what I think.
I'm worried about what's going to happen to Steve.
Oh,
because they're not going to get rid of him he's going to be on the show. What are they going to do with him? Maybe he'll meet someone who appreciates him.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure the thing between Miranda and Che is going to fall apart.
Uh-huh.
And then Miranda will want to go back to Steve.
I feel like it's going to be a lot of weird co-parenting awkwardness.
Oh. Well, yeah, it could be that things fall apart with Che. You know what I bet you anything with Che? I bet you anything Chase says, hey, I want to have an open relationship, or I want to.
Well, she already told her, she said, we are in the end of this when she said, I'm coming to LA with you. She said, well, you do realize we are not going to have a conventional relationship. And Miranda's just so giddy. She's like, oh, yeah, sure, okay. And then when she figures out what that means, I don't think she's going to be okay with it.
So I think that LA is going to be a shit show. Yeah. I think it's going to be really hard for Miranda. I think Miranda's going to realize it's really hard. And I think that the relationship's not going to be what it is. And I wonder if that she's going to come back to New York and be maybe like, oh, crap, I made a huge mistake. And Steve's in a new relationship with someone real nice, someone real, like, they have a great time, and Miranda's out in the cold.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Yeah. That happened to her before.
Yeah. It's possible. And then she learns a big lesson from it. I mean, that could be it. And then maybe she and Steve reunite again. I don't know. Do we really want to see all of that again? Because we've seen this 3 times already. Yeah. I mean, that's a possibility. But I don't know. I mean, what is Charlotte going to do? Because, I mean, Charlotte's kind of limited.
Well, if they're going to continue the storyline with
Rock,
that will be something. But yeah, and the other daughter, something's going to have to happen with the other daughter's too perfect. So something's going to have to happen with her.
Well, I think the other daughter announces that she wants to have sex. So it's all going to be about, like, Lily's going to have sex. Lily wants to have sex.
What? Did she already announce this? Or?
Yeah, I think I saw a preview. I watched like a preview of the 2nd season.
Oh, where is that?
Oh, you could just watch it online.
I need to find that.
Yeah, she said something like, I'm ready to have sex. And Charlotte's like, oh.
Oh, that's her storyline.
That's her whole thing.
And then, and Harry, he's very underutilized. I don't know what they've kind of made him into like a bumbling idiot too.
So, I mean, and that's pretty much, much it.
And then you have all these friend characters. You have Naya and LTW and Seema. I mean, I don't know if they're going to develop them more.
Well, I hope with Seema, we saw her last time dating that guy.
Yeah, she has a hot guy.
I hope that hot guy is around. I hope Seema finds her great love.
And you remember Seema's, she could have a good storyline with, her parents. She's Indian. Her parents keep asking her, when are you going to get married? And she lied to them and told them she was dating some doctor who doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, maybe she gets engaged to that guy who is not Indian. He looked like he was maybe Persian or Middle Eastern or something. And then they're upset because he's not Indian.
Mm-hmm. That could be it. She finally meets someone who's amazing.
This stuff.
She finally meets someone she really loves and is amazing and wonderful, but he's not Indian, and so they don't approve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be it. So,
can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm
excited.
Wait to find out.
I'm glad Kim Cattrall, I feel like, this is the toe that she's dipping back in.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what season 3 could be.
Yeah,
it could be her in front of a green screen, and then, who knows what the next season could be.
Yeah.
Closer and closer to getting her back there. Who knows?
Well, I'm so glad you're home for the summer, Layla, because we can watch this all summer long.
Yes.
Yep.
Can't wait for that vaginal dryness episode.
Can't wait for that. I know. Except Layla's always gone, and I can't wait for her to come back. I want to watch it like right when it comes out.
Well, we didn't watch it together last time.
I know. Well, you were in another state.
Well, now that we have the podcast, Layla, we've got a schedule to keep, so we have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, if you want to come back and give us your thoughts on the new season.
We'll call it the Gen Z Corner.
Yeah, you're always welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast this week. If you like this podcast, please subscribe. And go to Apple Podcast and leave us a 5-star review and leave us some kind words. We really do appreciate it. Follow us on at Cyclical Pop on Instagram and TikTok. And then tell a friend, tell 2 friends, tell 10 friends. We really do appreciate it. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesdays, we are doing our Sister Wives Rewind. We just finished season 3, and we are on to season 4 next week of Sister Wives. And then next week on Thursdays, we are starting our In Just Like That season 2 coverage. So we'll see you then.
Yay.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Toodles.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Give me a mountain with lots to do. Give me the sunshine, give me a dew. Give me something simple and true. All I need is sunshine and a cool, refreshing mountain dew. So give me my good friends, give me a dew.
Grab some friends and an ice-cold Mountain Dew today.
Mountain Dew.